when I was pushing her head out, I was screaming. Like, my lungs and throat were sore for weeks. Hello! So today I am finally making my labor and delivery video, talking about the birth and everything like that. I also have Lily with me today. So strong! She has the hiccups and she is talking a lot, so you'll probably hear her. She wants to tell her version. This video will probably be quite long, so yeah, if you want to hear about my labor and delivery story when I had Lily, then just keep watching. And if you don't want to hear about birth and blood and pain, and then bye. Lily was born on April 24th. She came at 4:27 in the morning. So she came on Monday, and this whole thing started on Friday. Our due date was actually April 10th. So I went 2 weeks past my due date and I had to be induced. Yeah, on like the 11th or 12th day past your due date, that's when they start inducing you. So on that Friday, we went into the hospital. So they were going to try to use I believe it's called a balloon catheter. I think it's what it's called. Shut up, computer! So they were going to use a balloon catheter, and that, I don't know how to explain it, but it's this little thing that they fill with water that they put in there, and then they fill it with water, and it's supposed to like irritate. And then it had this like tube sticking out that they taped to the side of my thigh. So we went in on Friday to get things going, and they checked me and they checked how much amniotic fluid I had. They told us that since I was like in good shape and I had enough amniotic fluids and everything was looking good, the heart rate was good, everything was fine, they sent us home and told us to come back on Saturday, the next day. It was nice to hear that everything was good. So we went back home, and then the next day on Saturday we went back to the hospital. That's when they put the balloon up in there. That whole process was awful. I hated that. Like, the whole balloon situation, I'm not doing that again. It wasn't like too painful, but when they were putting it in, this is gonna get nasty, but I heard blood splatter on the floor. It might have been blood and amniotic fluid, I'm not sure, but I just heard a splatter. And I was like laying up and they were putting it in, and then I started feeling dizzy and I started blacking out, so I almost started to pass out. And I'm not sure why, because it wasn't like too painful or anything. I don't know, my body was probably just like, what the fuck? Yeah, I almost passed out when they put the balloon in. Yeah, and then we just got sent back home again, because when you put a balloon in, they'll leave it in there for, you have to leave it in there for up to 24 hours. We got sent back home. They told us if it falls out, you call, and if it doesn't, just come back in the morning. We went back home on that Saturday. I had the balloon, and this was around 11 in the morning, they put that in. So we were like, all right, if it doesn't fall out, we'll come back 11 tomorrow on Sunday. The balloon was in, and I started having like a little bit like menstrual cramps. So I was like, all right, it's starting. I'm having like, maybe I'm starting to have contractions, but it was like, it wasn't like coming and going. It was pretty much consistent. And that started like right away after they put the balloon in. So that lasted for like a couple of hours. And yeah, in the afternoon, like around 5, the pain started kind of fading and it wasn't really that painful. So we went to bed, and that night I slept all right, nothing happened. The balloon didn't fall out, of course. So we packed up all our stuff again. We packed our hospital bags and brought everything on Friday and Saturday, but we got sent back home. So we we brought everything on Sunday again, and we were like, we're not leaving without the baby this time. We were there at around 11 again, because then it had been 24 hours. And then we got sent into like a little It was like a room, but it wasn't like where you give birth. It was just like kind of a waiting room with just a bed and a TV and just like a little room. So we were waiting there. They didn't take the balloon out yet. Around 1 o'clock, the doctor came in and took the balloon out, and that was all right. That didn't hurt. It was just kind of weird. I had a 4-centimeter opening, and then they put a pill in there, and when the pill was in, that's kind of when I started having real contractions. At like 3, 4, it started hurting more. Like that was when it was kind of starting to be more intense period pains. Around 6, it started to become more painful, and I was like, okay, can I take like some painkillers, or like what can I do? It's kind of hurting. And then around 7-ish, I told Oscar like, okay, it'd be nice to have some pain relieving now. And I did not want to get an epidural because needles and just the epidural in general just scares the shit out of me. I do not want to be poked in the backbone with a big ass needle. And also I was kind of scared that it would have some side effects, or that it wouldn't work, or I've read about people that have had problems after having an epidural. I just didn't feel like having one. But I was open to like other types of pain relief, and at the hospital that we were at here in Trondheim, they do not have gas and air, so I did not have that option. So they checked me again, and I had like, I think I only had like 4.5 to 5 centimeter opening at around 7 that night. Like, okay, I'm kind of in pain. And then they checked and they're like, all right, we can move you over to, because we're still in that little room, so they're like, all right, we can move you over to the birth area. Yeah, around 8 they moved us there. So my camera died, and I charged it for like 11 minutes because that's the patience I have. I was like, what kind of pain relief options do I have? I do not want a epidural, and I'm in pain. So the midwife, she was really, really sweet. She was like encouraging me not to get an epidural, which I really liked. She told me like, all right, we have like acupuncture, and I was like, no, still needles. And she was like, yeah, we have acupuncture, and we have like this TENS machine. It had like 2 or 4 little things that I could tape on my back, and I had this little remote that like, it was like an electric massage. It like tightens your muscles. So they taped that on my back, and that's what I chose to use. And then they had some other shit, I don't know. And then I just controlled it myself. Like, it was on massaging, and then when I had a contraction, I boosted it, so it was like zzz, zzz, zzz. Between 8 or 9, I think, I got one of those on my back. And around 10, I tried to get in a bathtub, but I was only in there for like half an hour, because every time I had a contraction, I had to stand up. I could not sit down. I could not lay down. I had to stand, and this was starting to get really painful, like whiny. I was like whining. I was like, this is painful. So I tried to get in the bathtub to see if that relieved anything, and I knew that I wanted to try to use like water as pain relief, but I had to lay down in the tub, and that did not feel too great. Like, when I had a contraction, I got up out of the water and I tried to sit back down. It was all right when I wasn't having a contraction, because I was just like laying there floating and chilling. And so I was in there for like almost half an hour, but I was like getting up a lot, and I was like, screw this, I'm just gonna get out and use that TENS machine again and just try to chill out. So I got out of the tub and put the TENS machine back on. Oh yeah, around 11 they switched my midwife, so I had a midwife student and a midwife that was like assisting, helping her. And the midwife student was there the whole time from like 11 until Lily came. Yeah, that was really nice to like have someone there all the time. Right after I got out of the tub, I was like, okay, what kind of, like, shit, this is hurting. What happens when you get an epidural? Because it wasn't too much the pain, but I had been having kind of contractions and pains for like almost 10 hours, and I was kind of starting to get tired, and just I was exhausted. I hadn't really eaten a lot, which they say you should, and we did eat lunch around 3. You can't really plan your meals in the middle of birth. I was like, no, whatever, I'm not getting an epidural. But for a minute there, I was thinking about it. now it was starting to get late. It was like around, yeah, 1, 2 at night. It was starting to really hurt, like to the point where I was almost, like pretty much crying. And I had to stand up. I was so dead tired at this point. And then I got this bean bag that they put on the bed. And I was like hanging over it on the bed, standing up. And at one point I was so tired that I was standing up between some contractions and I fell asleep standing up. So I like caught myself as I was falling asleep because I felt that I was falling. So I fell asleep standing up. That's how tired I was. Around 1-ish, I would say 12, like around midnight, 1 o'clock. The pain was more like, suddenly it felt like I had to push. And I was like, can I just like push? Like your body just takes over totally. It went from like pain to like still pain, but like I had to push too. So I was like pushing when I had contractions, but it wasn't like she was coming out. It was just, I really had to push. The midwife student was in there with us, and then she was going out to get the other midwife, and they were like about to break my water, I guess. They were like kind of getting ready to do that. So she went out, so Oscar and I were alone in the room. I was having contractions, whatever, and then suddenly my water just broke, and I just screamed because it just felt like my water broke, and she was on her way out. So I was like, oh my god, she's coming now. Like Oscar was like, holy shit. So I was standing up and he was like, get on the bed. So I jumped up in the bed, and then he pulled that like emergency thing. So the midwives came running back in, and I was like, my water broke, and they're like, all right, you're gonna give birth soon. And now it was like really like pushing. Now it wasn't too painful. Now it was more like I just had to push. And that's when like things were starting to happen, I guess. And she was like on her way out. I was just pushing and pushing, and I was pushing for about 50 minutes. That part wasn't as scary as I thought. And like the pushing part didn't really hurt too much until her head was like halfway out, and you can only push when you have contractions. So I was like pushing, and then we were like waiting. They're like, you have to push as hard as you can, and I was like, I kind of am. I've never pushed harder than this before, at least. Her head was like halfway out, and I pushed, and then I couldn't push anymore because the contraction was over. So they were like, stop pushing, don't push. Her head was like halfway out. So I was like, holy shit. All right, so I just have to like lay there with her head halfway out, and that burnt. That was the most painful thing. I think I was just laying there for like a minute and a half maybe until I could push again. And when I pushed that time, her head popped out and she was like kind of out, and then I just had to push like 1 or 2 more times, and then she was out, I think. So she finally came out at 4:27. The second she was out, there was no pain. I mean, it was a little bit sore, I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't painful anymore. Everything was just fine. And I had 2 little tears, so they had to sew 2 little stitches. All in all, it was a really, really amazing experience. Like I said in the other video, they estimated her to be 3,600 grams, and she was 4,355. So she was big. I had a really nice experience, and I was really lucky. We were both fine after, and she is healthy, and I would say happy, but now she's a little bit grumpy. So yeah, that was my labor and delivery story. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel. Bye.
Bye, 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 bye. I don't wanna be a fool for you. Just nothing. You don't love me, but it ain't no lie, baby. Bye, 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 bye.
Mico, chef. We went in on Friday. Lily! So yeah, holy shit, there's a bug on the floor. Oh, it looked like a beetle-ish thing. Oh my god, where'd it go? Holy shit. Oh, I can't see it. Oh, I can't see it. Where is it? Oh, I see it. Oh, it's... Ew! Oh my god. I dropped it. Yeah. Hey, Happy.